That was very good, David, and irrelevant.
And irrelevant, you betcha.
President Trump identified himself as a nationalist the other day, right? And the media went to a complete meltdown. Judge President Trump and this populist movement, and the populist movement worldwide, judged by their actions. Hold them accountable. We're not perfect. People are trying to figure this out as they go, but I will tell you one thing. The little guy. This is about the little guy versus the elites. The little guy identifies with that, whether it's in Hungary, whether it's in Italy, whether it's in Brazil, whether it's in the United States of America. The future obviously belongs to populism. It's only going to be defined by, is it left-wing populism or conservative and right-wing populism? Is it about deconstructing the administrative state and opening up the power of capitalism? Or is it going to be about more state intervention in your entire life? Because that is going to be the future. The battle going forward in the United States is against the Bernie Sanders and the Cory Bookers and Elizabeth Warren and that aspect of the Democratic Party that grows in strength every day, the resistance. That's the reality. The rest of it's just happy talk. The other thing, don't look beyond the smears, the signal and the noise. Look at the signal. Look at the actions. Look how they're bringing people in. Look how this populist movement will reach out and take the economic nationalists and the Bernie Sanders movement. Look how we will go and accommodate and bring in a third of the African American vote in our country. Something the Republican Party for decades and decades and decades talked about and never did. Look at right now, I think it's 40%, the poll today, 40% of Hispanics agree with what President Trump's doing on the border. Because they understand they bear the burden of the solutions of that. I'm not saying President Trump's perfect. He wouldn't say he's perfect. He's a very imperfect instrument. He might not say he's an imperfect instrument, but I can understand David's frustration. I can understand the angst. You know, as one of the senior public intellectuals and leaders of the Bush administration, the traditional public, the Republican Party.
The Bush administration.
16 people that ran against President Trump in 2016, or the 14. They were a flower of a generation of donor money, of the heritage, of AEI, of Cato, of Paul Singer, of the Kochs, of all of it. And look at the quality of the people. Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, Governor Christie, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, every vertical had its best person. It was the strongest field in the history of the Republican Party. And Donald Trump cut through that like a sift through grass, right? Why? Because he talked about trade. He talked about this radical idea, a radical idea of free trade, particularly when you're going against a totalitarian, mercantilist society like China. He talked about the deindustrialization of our country. He talked about where people's lives are. He talked about what mattered. That's why he won. That's why he won the Republican primary, and that's why he beat Hillary Clinton. Our whole thing was to compare and contrast. You're the tribune of the people, and she is the guardian of a corrupt and incompetent elite, a permanent political class.
Yep. Amen, Brother Brennan. Amen.
Somehow I see I'm not quite connecting.
It's because it's Canada.
This is the future. And it's not, and I realize David tonight tried to demonize this. It's not racist, it's not nativist, it's not xenophobic. The deplorables are the finest people. We're in the fourth turning of American history. We had the Revolution, the Civil War, Great Depression, World War II. And now the fourth turning. Every 80 to 100 years this happens because in generational history, it's the movie David was in with me. It's about how you're raised. How you raise the generation. We're in the great fourth turning. In the next 10, 15, or 20 years, the United States is going to be, we're either going to be the country we're bequeathed, or going to be something totally different. And the backbone of our country, we're not an idea. America's not an idea, it's a nation. We have the greatest land and the greatest resources. We have divinely inspired Constitution and Declaration of Independence. But that's not our strength. Our strength is the deplorables, just like in Canada. It's the little guy. It's upon their shoulders everything rests. And they're the backbone of the populist movement. They're not racist, they're not nativists, they're not xenophobes. They're citizens of the greatest country in mankind's history. And they, not Donald Trump, not Stephen K. Bannon, not Mike Pence, they are going to lead us through this great turmoil to come. Thank you very much for having us tonight.